Today I wanted to go on a bit of a maybe slightly schizophrenic ramble about some things in the occult that I think are important to talk about. Um, First of all, I'd like to talk about psychic self-defense. So I think this is good to talk about first because I think some people have some like emergency situations where they're kind of getting buried by demons. I know I did. I think it's worse for some kinds of people, like uh, I don't want to bring it up, first thing, but star seeds. I think star seeds have it a little worse sometimes. Uh, like a lot of times, star seeds would, especially like earlier in their lives, struggle with a lot of depression and things of that nature. Um, so I think that comes a lot from external beings. Like, just think about the phenomenon of depression. Um, you just feel sad suddenly. You sort of lack will. You're sort of lost. You can say that it's like astral parasites. You could say it's like the demon Belphegor. There's a lot of things you can say in these sorts of situations that sort of you can explain to yourself. In my personal experience with peeling back the layers, I would say that it's demons such as Belphegor, or Jezebel, or whatever. And then on below that, like more obviously, it's like parasites and there's like different layers of parasites, and there's I've seen chips. Um, this is like one of the main symptoms of schizophrenia, or not symptoms, so it's like a common manifestation of like schizophrenic symptoms is people thinking they have like chips in them. But like one person in the occult, Marian Gorovich, I'm pronouncing it a bit wrong, but he talks about how people will have chips. I guess he says they're put there by spirits, or then like in the Ashiana Dean talks about this, where like she calls them J seals. There's like one here and one here and one here, like and somehow there's like a diodic crystal grid that just manifests this in all people. I mean, I've kind of experienced a lot of weird shit, so I don't want to seem like I don't believe it, you know. I would say if something feels wrong, it's probably wrong. You know what I mean? Even popular music though, popular music can have this like I almost want to say like mimetic effect of like producing something in your consciousness and reproducing it itself as like a kind of uh, psychic disease almost. Like for example, in the Middle Ages, they believed that mental health issues are like contagious. And I think that's actually true. I don't think that they're contagious in the same way that a physical disease is, but like if like a lot of times you'll see someone who has a large delusion, they'll sort of suck other people into it, um, and that can be kind of difficult. So, uh, as far as psychic self-defense, if someone is buried by demons and whatnot, or having a lot of troubling experiences, it kind of depends. If someone's sort of astral projecting kind of fluidly without really having control over it, that's one problem. Probably just grounding is the answer there. Um, and then you can read Psychic Self Defense by Dion Fortune, but I think that that's not the most like. I didn't get everything I need to protect myself with that. Um, so one thing you can do is you can imagine like making weapons out of like certain colors, especially like purple, like an electric purple, or a very like radiant black, like a velvety radiating black. Or I also do green, like a nice like Green Lantern, heavy emerald green is that's very powerful. And so if a spirit comes to mess with you, you can just sort of imagine such a color manifesting and as one weapon or another, or whatever you want really, and just sort of hit them back. Because when you imagine something, you actually produce it on the astral plane, on the plane of mind even, and probably more the astral plane. So imagination isn't so much something that is artificial inside your mind, but it's something. It's like we're all creators, and so we can all create on the astral plane. So like this is where people, they're not very sensitive to the astral plane, and they'll become depressed because something's coming in through the astral body that they don't have a lot of sensitivity to. And so just about everyone can kind of get like totally raped really by any number of astral parasites and whatnot. And I think that's a real problem. To me, I think that we should be teaching this sort of thing in schools of like, yeah, how not to get bent over and raped basically by beings you can't even sense. Oh, you're depressed. Here's some pills. When in reality, you could just do some very simple practices and make a lot of change. Another thing with depression, I think this also, in my mind, falls under. It's sort of adjacent as a concept to psychic self-defense, and that's like ancestor issues. So like sometimes you have prevailing issues in your psyche, sort of thought loops. I want to use I want to explain the term circumambulation here, where like when you have something going on in your life, like you have a really nasty partner, or let's say it this way, let's say you and your dad is really toxic and narcissistic and nasty, and then you get into a relationship and your partner's like that, and then you get into another relationship and the person's better but you sort of botch it, and then you get into another relationship and it's another narcissist, sort of, which I have some issue with the term narcissist actually, but you know, that's called circumambulation. It's like you're going in a loop, you're going around the wheel, going around the zodiac wheel in some sense sometimes. And that then brings you to the same place after a while. And depending on sort of, it's kind of, it depends, the speed can tell you something about yourself, how fast you're circumambulating. So a lot of that comes from like some of that's generational, but of course whatever's in your family kind of comes from your past life as well. So okay, your parents did something that was unsavory, but you're dealing with that because in some way, shape, or form your consciousness brought it in from a previous life. And also there's some speculation about there's like a pre-life where like you actually choose their circumstances of your birth, etc., etc. I don't know exactly. I haven't had a lot of experiences to back up that sort of thing, so I don't know exactly. I've had some like past life regression, but it's like pre-life regression. Had a little tiny sprinkling of that, but it's not enough for me to come out here and declare anything, more or less. Let's see. So yeah, as far as that, you can do things to sort of cleanse any kind of ancestor problems. But I think recognizing that there's an ancestral pattern, or even, ancestral in terms of like maybe your parents, and of course something your parents do goes back to their parents, and like a few generations back, like for me, like a lot of my family members, there's some pretty seedy, nasty stories, and I think that's most people. And I think now we just have a society where like everyone knows each other's shit, so it kind of, people bottle themselves up and aren't really their full selves, and then a lot of people end up in this being these like drones. I don't when I look at pictures and hear the stories of people like of 3-4 generations ago, I don't really get that sense. I mean, I don't want to fall into like the, oh, everything was better, it wasn't. I think there is a little bit of a we're all becoming drones a little bit due to technology, and I think social expectations are actually a little heavier now, in the sense that society, like, things don't really work that well for everyone. So it's like I don't know how to describe it, but I know that people were doing some crazy shit in the past, and beating their wives, no one would say anything. um Drinking a lot, and no one would really make any kind of like, it was just normal. Or gambling, you know I mean, I don't know, like, where I was from, I didn't know anyone that gambled until like near the end. I met like a few people that did. um so I can't imagine who could afford to gamble, really, you know uh things like that. Now it's like, if you drink too much and you get into a fight, you could go to jail for assault. I think that's what it is. It's not so much social expectation, it's more uh like, the law is very draconian in many places. um so but that has to do with, and that does tie in with ancestral patterns, in that sense that, like, um we live in a tighter world, but there's certain impulses from previous generations and previous lives that it's not open to us technically to search those things out. Um, so there's good things now and there's bad. I think the vibration is getting better, but still, there's bad impulses, and there's like reprogramming, and the whole, like, world is being reprogrammed, and so that's prodding a lot of these uh a lot of this need for healing. And sometimes, healing, you can actually activate yourself psychically, and that's where the psychic attacks come in. So you know yeah, as far as I guess the last thing I want to mention here, as far as psychic self-defense, is the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, the LBRP. I think anyone serious about the occult should know it, should do it. I would say the caveat there is, if you have like some kind of issues with psychosis, it can think maybe it can make them a touch worse. So but what it does, I think, it embarrasses me that I tried it. Like, it's I'm embarrassed to say a little bit that it took me so long to try it and to use it, and that I'm embarrassed that it's so effective compared to so many other things that I've done and developed myself in. Like, with astral projection and whatnot, I do a lot of different things and have a lot of different processes. But the LBRP just doesn't matter. You can be the best astral projector that ever was, but the LBRP is still really, really effective in a way that you just can't assure it that way with astral projection. Yeah, because astral projection messes with time as well. You don't project necessarily into the time you're now experiencing. Like, sometimes it's a bit later, a bit earlier. So that means, right as you're doing something, it might have an effect later, or if someone attacks you psychically, it can have an effect earlier or later. And so it's a weird thing in that sense. But the LBRP, I don't do the Hebrew words, and I don't invoke the 4 archangels for the elements. I do Vedic gods. But yeah, I would highly recommend it. And the other thing is that the first time you do it, you feel like woof, because you're sealing your aura. You're drawing. It comes from Tantra. You draw a mind circle in your imagination once again, and that seals your aura. And because otherwise your aura is just sort of lazily seeping into everything else. Um, so then when you harden your auric shell, that doesn't happen, and then you're like your own person. You're not beholden to uh, other people's thoughts or feelings, which are actually aurically uh, like permeate. They're like aurically transmitting to you. So if someone's in a bad mood, the aura kind of like, like a heat that sort of comes in, or a vibration, a vibe. You become a little bit less sensitive to people's vibes, but far less reactive. So like, if someone is like really always getting your goad, they're like now they're kind of getting your goad, because before they're sort of feeding on your aura, which was not sealed and was just they could just, no problem. um, but the but yeah, it's sealed, so they can't do it. It's here's a wall. Make your aura great again. Build a wall. So I think I might expand on this topic more, because psychic self defense is a topic that's very that I have a lot to say about. But I think this is a good, like, why and how in short.